PreMedCC, which is a student-led organization that was established in fall of 2021. Our goal as an organization was to create an online program for pre-medical students at community colleges and universities with the hope of guiding the next generation of diverse and inclusive physicians. We know how challenging finding mentorship can be, especially in the middle of a pandemic still. And while we advertise our organization as being for community college students, our events are open to anyone who wants to join. And we realize that finding mentorship and guidance in the pre-med journey can be especially challenging for first-generation students, people that lack financial resources, or just those that don't know where to start. One of the best parts about our events is that they are virtual, so you can join us from home or wherever you are. We typically have events on Fridays from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and occasionally on Saturdays as well. And if you aren't able to attend the event, all of our events are recorded and then they are put on our YouTube channel. So if you miss one, you can always catch up later. And after this event, be sure to take the quiz to make sure that you get credit for your hours that you attended today. However, it's not required. So if you don't want to, you don't have to, but it's a good way to get credit for the time that you're attending today. And finally, if you want to stay up to date with all of our upcoming events, be sure to follow us on social media. PreMedCC is our username on all of these platforms. So if you want to stay up to date and know what's coming down the pipeline for our events, be sure to follow us on these social media platforms here. And now I'm just going to introduce our speaker for the day. So today I would like to introduce our speaker, Anthony Machado. Anthony received his Bachelor's of Science degree in kinesiology at California State University, San Bernardino. During his time at CSUSB, he led numerous student organizations and co-founded the first pre-medical and pre-health conference at CSUSB. In his summers, he completed an internship at UC Riverside and conducted research and community health projects. In the summer of 2013, he became a congressional intern at the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. After graduating from CSUSB in 2014, he moved to Sacramento. He continued his mission to serve his community and worked as a health policy advocate at the California State Capitol. He also started working as an emergency room technician with San Bernardine's Medical Center. He then received a full-ride scholarship to his dream school at the Keck School of Medicine of USC. Most recently, Anthony founded the Sacramento Street Medicine Organization to serve his community. Currently, Anthony serves as the co-CEO of Brainbox Methods to help underrepresented students who lack the resources and mentorship needed to succeed in college. So thank you for joining us today.
Is that my cue? Great. Okay. Juven, I had seen that it said panelists. I didn't know if there was anybody else joining, but I have talking points. I don't necessarily have a PowerPoint, but I will provide these notes for Juven to provide to whoever's here and perhaps the entire group. Yeah, so I feel like they did a good job of my bio. My name's Anthony Machado, but I think the most important thing, I think, for me, with respect to my bio and everything that I've done, I think the most important thing is that though I do practice medicine, I practice family medicine. That's actually an old bio because it doesn't have my actual job, which is family medicine. I practice family medicine 40 hours a week full time, and my off time is street medicine. I founded Sacramento Street Medicine, and the bio says recently, but it's actually 2.5 years ago. And over the past year, we've grown exponentially to include UC Davis School of Medicine residents or students, medical students, and PA students and nursing students, California North State University medical students, Sacramento State nursing students, Sacramento State social work students. And we were fortunate enough last year and shortly into this year going to be getting a $100,000 grant from one of the health insurance companies for us to do our work. We're in the middle of that now. We have 7 different medical teams that provide medical care into the 7 biggest homeless encampments in Sacramento. So if anybody is in the Northern California area, we have tons of volunteers. I think we opened our application up for like 7 days, and it was like 275 volunteers. It's just crazy. But if you are interested, you guys are part of a private group. Jubin is a good friend of mine. I do outreach all the time. Before we just kind of were speaking, I'm doing outreach today. And so for anybody here that's wanting to get exposure to that kind of work, I'd be more than happy to kind of facilitate that. I serve as executive director of Sacramento Street Medicine, and Jubin has my contact info. I want to get into this, guys, because I think one of the most important things with respect to your guys' journey, you guys are pre-med, pre-health, what have you. I saw the professions there, but I didn't see PA. So maybe we can add that. I think time and time management and productivity kind of go hand in hand, right? Like we are at the beginning of the year, and everybody knows the whole idea of New Year's resolutions. And sometimes, I would say oftentimes, more often than not, they actually don't pan out, right? Like people that want to get fit, people that want to, achieve some amazing goals, they generally don't pan out because goals are just goals. You need to have some type of system backing that up. And we're going to talk about this, right? So what is the goal of time management and productivity, right? For your thought process and going into this year, we're going to talk about a few points. And the goal really for you students, and maybe you're post-bac, maybe you're in undergrad, maybe you're in community college, the goal is to overcome procrastination, right? Have less stress, and ultimately be able to do have more time to do the things that you love, and spend less time doing things that you don't love, so you can make time for things like with your loved ones or your friends and your family, things that you actually like doing, and actually getting more things that are of actual value done. Now, students, I was there. I feel like I'm always a student. Those that know me, I'm always learning. So people, say, oh, you're 2 years removed from graduating from USC, but I'm always a student. I'm always learning. In many cases, many more hours than some of the students that I mentor. So we all are privy. We all have flaws with respect to wasting our time, right? Whether it's scrolling through Instagram or, scrolling through TikTok and spending hours on Netflix, watching YouTube videos, having overly busy schedules, because this is just our human nature, right? And one thing with respect to the whole idea of busy schedules, right? People always tell me, like when I sit down with my teams or I sit down with any given student, their first thing is like, oh, well, I'm so happy you sat down with me because I know you're incredibly busy, right? And my response now has changed. I used to say like, yeah, you're right. I'm like so busy. Like I'm incredibly busy, but I'm here with you. But now I'm like, you know what? Everybody's busy. Everybody's busy. I don't want to be known for being busy. I want to be known for being productive, right? I think it was Francis Crick that said, a busy life is a wasted life, right? A busy life is a wasted life, because like you can be busy standing in place, running the same race, but not necessarily making any progress. So today's talk is really the talking points that I have here are to help you as students make progress toward your goals, and hopefully make 2022, the best year yet, which is pretty easy to think about when it's, following 2020 and 2021. But in any case, okay. So the first point, and you guys can take notes if you'd like. I think actually physically writing notes for yourself is beneficial, but you will get these notes at the end. I just want you to think, what points really stick out to you. Maybe you can share it. You share it with Jubin, or you share it on social media. That would obviously, the whole point here is to kind of benefit you guys and benefit the PreMedCC organization. In any case, the first step to actual time management and productivity is to actually own your time. Like step back and actually understand that you are doing whatever you're doing is what you're choosing to do at that particular time. So many people, I don't know how many people you've heard say, I don't have time, right? I used to say this all the time. My first instinct is like, oh, I don't have time. But really all I'm saying is that that's just not a priority, right? At any given time, you are doing what you most want to be, what you most want to be doing, right? In other words, your time is in your control and you're actively choosing to do what you want, right? If you're in school from 8 to 10, 10 to 2, 2 to 4, and then you're complaining or you're not really making the most of it, like understand, like you're choosing to be in that class. You're choosing to pursue this career. You're choosing to give your time to that. Now, if you wanted to go do something else, then by all means. My biggest thing with this is when students graduate and they're in their career and they're burnt out, or they're not happy with what they're doing and they're working at 9 to 5 or they're working at 8 to 4 or whatever. My question is always like, well, you're giving your time, right? You have to own it, right? This is what you chose. You're choosing to give your time. You could work half the day. You may be making less, but then you have to figure out like the whole financial situation. That's perfectly fine, but you have to first and foremost own your time. Understand, like whatever you're giving your time to is what you're actively choosing to do. Okay, so number one is owning your time, and secondly, and more importantly, I think, is auditing your time. This is something that like very few students do, and I know this because I mentor students. I've been mentoring students for 10 plus years, guys. I mentor students like pretty much every day. Okay. And the first thing I do when I have a new student through Brainbox or somebody that just reaches out to us, we have them write down their schedule. And this is auditing your time, right? We literally give me a week that you're relatively, oh, this thing popped up. Give me a week that you're relatively, a normal week for you. And then let's audit your time, right? What time do you wake up? What time do you go to school? What time do you have to go to work? What things do you do in between, the class time's over to the time that you have to go to your next class, or the time that you have to go to work? What time do you get off work? Whatever. I can't tell you how many times, guys, I have been working with students many, many years, and I can't tell you how many times I sit down with a student and I'm like, hey man, you could really, like, if you're really passionate about this particular thing, maybe it's medicine, maybe it's not medicine, maybe it's something outside of medicine to kind of augment everything that you have as an applicant. I'm like, well, then start a cause, start something like PreMedCC, start something like Sacramento Street Medicine. Now, it doesn't have to be that big. It can be a cause. It can be a run. It doesn't have to be some nonprofit or some, profitable organization, but give your all to something, and you can make it. That will make you unique, right? And the first thing that they say is like that whole piece, I don't have time. I don't know where I'm going to do the time. I don't know where I'm going to have the time, right? And my next question is like, okay, well, like, let's just look at it, right? Well, what time do you go to school? What, if you're in a busy schedule, you have 3 classes in a day, right? Because they're usually split up Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever. Let's say 3 classes in a day. You have a class from 8 to 10 and 12 to 2 and 2 to 4. So what are you doing from, my question is like, okay, well, what time do you wake up? 6:30, 7. Okay, so what are you doing from 7 to 8? What are you doing from 10 to 12? What are you doing from 4 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to, what time do you go to sleep? 11, 7 to 11 p.m. What are we doing? Let's look at our habits, right? Because if we're honest with ourselves, when we audit our time, we all have bad habits. I myself have bad habits, but those bad habits aren't necessarily brought to light unless you audit your time, right? The truth is, I read all the time. I'm constantly listening to audiobooks. One of the best books I've ever read. I read it and listened to it on audiobooks. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear. I would write that down and start it, because that is something that can literally change your life. But one thing he says in the book is the task of breaking a habit is like uprooting a powerful oak within us. In other words, it's so rooted in what we believe, what we think, that it is so incredibly hard to take out, to remove from our schedule. The first thing though, is you have to be honest about what bad habits those are, right? The next question is like, okay, well, you've audited your schedule. You've written down everything from Monday through Sunday. You have all the scheduled things. You have all the habits. the times that you go on Instagram, how often you go on Instagram, how often you go on YouTube, how long are the videos that you normally watch, how long do you watch them for, right? You have time frames, right? How do you understand like whether you can take this off or keep this on, right? Keep this task on your schedule or keep this task off your schedule. Now, some of them are going to be automatic, right? It's going to be school and work, and if you have a loved one, whatever, right? But for the next segment, I want you guys to think about this. This is a thought experiment I do with all my students, or usually around this time of year. I want you to do this exercise with me. So we just got out of 2021, right? We were most of the time when you're about to finish the year, what you're thinking is, okay, I'm looking back on 2021, like what things did I accomplish, right? Have you guys seen all those reels with like all the things like changing, and it's all these like accomplishments and all these like amazing things that they did in 2021, right? Usually it's like places they've gone, or they got married. I got engaged in 2021, right? Whatever. So there's some things that are accomplishments. So you think about what are your accomplishments, and then you move on to goals, right? You move on to goals for 2022. What I want you to do instead is this. I want you to picture yourself a year from now. It's the end of 2022. What are 3 to 5 amazing things that you could accomplish, that you could feel proud about, that you could look back on 2022 and say, damn, I did that. I can't believe we had such an amazing year, right? 3 to 5 amazing things that you've accomplished, that they're done, right? You made it happen, right? That's the end of 2022. Once you have those things down, flash yourself back to 2020, January 2022 right now, and think as you audit your schedule, does this action, does this event get me closer to any of those 3 to 5 amazing things that I literally just wrote down that I said I would be proud of if I accomplished? Now, if you're putting in a habit that you're going to try to do every week, or a habit that you want to take out every week, you have to think like, if that doesn't work toward those 3 to 5 amazing things, then you probably it's probably a good idea to think twice about removing it, right? You should probably remove it. Now, I'm not saying by any means, am I saying don't have leisure time. I have leisure time. I watched a movie last night, but my biggest thing is that you have to earn it. You have to earn it, right? How many times do you guys see somebody they're saying they want to go to medical school, right? But you never see them studying. You never see them putting in the work. They're always taking breaks. You're like, do you really think that's going to happen? Probably not. Those are things that if you audited your schedule and you put it in your schedule, like these things are not benefiting me to accomplish those 3 to 5 amazing things that I'm talking about at the end of the year, then you want to take those out. This leads me to my next point, which is this is the most important point in this topic, in this workshop, which is you should have systems, not goals. Systems, not goals. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this quote, but it goes, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. What does that mean? Everybody and their mother has a goal, has a ton of goals beginning of 2022. And they had a bunch of them beginning of 2021. How many of those goals did you achieve? Right? Just because you have goals doesn't mean that you're going to achieve them. How do you achieve them? The answer is systems, right? Because a goal is just a figure of your imagination. You don't have like some process. You need to fall in love with the process, right? I am like structured. Now, in my own personal life, with my personal growth, with the growth of my company at Brainbox, with the growth of our organization at Sacramento, we lacked structure. We lacked systems, right? in our initial phases. We lack structure, we lack system. Once we put systems in place, it just blew up to a whole new level. In the first year, it was like crickets. We put systems in place, boom, like we just exploded. It just exploded. Now we have like, I don't know, 25. We're about to do a leadership retreat. We're going to have 40 leaders meet in the heart of Sacramento. The city of Sacramento came to us at Sacramento Street Medicine because we were doing such incredible work to offer us literally millions of dollars to do work in Sacramento County, in Sac City, for these safe ground sites that we were doing. We didn't have the capacity, so we had to literally turn it down. But how that happened is we put systems in place that we didn't have before, right? And I go back to my previous example. You guys are students, right? How many of you guys pick goals? How many of you guys had goals in 2021? You probably don't even remember what goals you set in your New Year's resolution, right? Because there's no process, there's no system to attain those goals, right? It's like somebody saying, I want to be fit, right? That's like the biggest thing. Like the gyms are packed. I just went to the gym. It's packed with people that have a ton of New Year's resolutions, but do they have a system, right? Then you look at them and they're like when they're not at the gym, they're eating chips and they're like eating out. They're having Starbucks like every day. It's like, there's no real system to achieve your goal. Like you have a goal, but what's your system? I want to be a professional soccer player, but you never train. You never see the person training. And when they do train, there's no regimen, right? There's no system in it. I want to be a doctor, but there's no system for studying. There's no system for getting experiences and getting the research experience you need, the leadership experience you need, getting out in the community, doing the work there, working on your resume, working on your personal statement, working on your interviews. There's no system. It's just a pie in the sky goal, right? You have to have systems. Now, one of the ways to do this is to actually track what you're doing and have track your productivity. Now, there are productivity apps. You guys have probably heard of Monday. You guys have probably heard of Trello. Maybe you guys haven't. Trello, Monday. I use Notion. Notion is a phenomenal productivity app. It's a way that you can systematically create everything that you choose to achieve and track it. How many times you guys have like all these things that you need to do, right? As students, there's so many things you need to do. Homework, study, you have the responsibilities in the classroom, you have your responsibilities in the community, you have your responsibilities in terms of leadership in clubs, you have your responsibility in terms of maybe you're working, you have your responsibility in terms of all the other things that are associated to your career. Maybe it's like studying for the MCAT or whatever it is, right? GRE, whatever it is. But it's all over the place. It's like it's in this book here, and the notebook over here, and then the notebook over here, and then there's Google Drive, and then there's all this stuff. Notion just puts it all together so that at night or whenever you have that free time, you go to that one app, you go to that one thing, and it's all situated for you, right? All you have to do is, Charlie Munger talks about assiduity. Charlie Munger is like Warren Buffett's right-hand man. Warren Buffett is the richest man on the planet, I believe. Charlie Munger calls it assiduity. Just put your ass in a chair and do the work, right? If you have the time, sit down and do the work. But if you sit down and you have all these things, all these responsibilities, I used to tell my now fiance back then, years ago, she tells me, babe, do you have any work tonight? I'm like, I have so much work. There's like so much. I have so much to do. Like there's so much to do, right? But I'm like, when I sit down, I'm like, oh, I could do a little bit of text here. I could do some stuff on the Google Drive here. I could do some stuff here. I could do some. No, it's like, nope. Now I just go to one thing. I just got to put all my focus into that one thing, and it's gonna translate into all of my systems. For you, it's gonna be class. It's gonna be obtaining leadership experience, community experience, research experience, all that stuff tracked in one beautiful way. Productivity, systems. That's what I'm talking about when systems, not goals. Now I can talk for days, guys. I know I only have an hour. I have a relatively soft stop at 11. The next thing is track your time per task. Now I don't do this because I've been this like this busy, this like my mind runs 1,000 miles a minute. It's been like this for 12 years, a good part of 12 years. So I relatively know how long it takes to complete a task. This is what I mean though. How can you audit your schedule if you don't know how long a particular task takes, right? You do math homework. Usually it takes you for some people, it takes an hour. For some people, it takes 2 hours. For, doing organic chemistry homework, sometimes it takes 30 minutes. For geniuses, it might take 20 minutes. For, people like me, it might take like an hour and a half, whatever it is. You need to track that time so that you can put it in your schedule and you can actually, make the most of the schedule that you have. Now there are things that you can use to track your tasks. There's apps. There's the app called Toggle. A lot of my friends have used Toggle. I can personally say I've never used it, but there are ways to actually track the amount of time that you have on your tasks. And the purpose of that is to know how long it takes to get to complete a task so that you can more readily audit your schedule and fill your schedule up, right, properly, right? And the idea of timing your task is the Parkinsons Law. And we're going to talk about this a little later. Now, I never track my tasks with respect to studying or, doing homework or doing anything like that. But a good example is like the gym, right? Because maybe some of you are thinking right now, it's like, why would I track my tasks? That's exactly what I thought. It's like, why would I track my tasks? Why would I download Toggle and like, hit play when I'm like doing my homework and then hit stop? Because I'm pretty sure, like, I know how long it takes me. I'm pretty sure I know how long it takes me to go to the gym. Pretty sure I know how long it takes me, because some things are relatively like flexible, right? Sometimes the homework's really hard. Sometimes the homework's really, so maybe homework's not a good example, but there are many things in your work, in your day, that you can time to augment or make better the other things in your life. For example, cooking, right? You can time how long it takes for you to cook. You can time how long it takes for you to work out. You can time how long for you it takes to take a shower. You can time all those things. Every single minute counts, right? For me, it was the gym. I go to the gym. I've been going to the gym, guys. I played soccer at Cal State San Bernardino. That's the reason why I was there for 4 years. And then I played professional soccer. And then I've been going to the gym for a long time. For the longest time, I felt like I knew what I was doing in the gym. This past year, 2021, in like September, it was like, it ended up being a terrible month to pick because I ended up getting a home and got engaged, all this stuff. It was crazy. But the month prior to that, I paid somebody to train me in the gym. This productivity, like, tracking my productivity. I grew so much more gains just by tracking what I was doing in the gym than I had done in the previous 12 years. So the same thing goes for when you're a student and you're doing homework and tasks and trying to achieve your goals. Okay. The next thing is knowing your priorities. Ask yourself these questions, like, with this task, with this thing that you're trying to put in or take out, like, what does my schedule look like with this commitment in it? Right? Like, how many hours does it take? Right? So many people, right? That's the whole thought process of, there's a book called Hell Yes or No, right? The idea, like, if a opportunity makes you go like, hell yeah, like, I want to be a part of that. Somebody tells you like, hey, do you want to do an internship at CDC? They offer me, hey, do you want to do an internship at CDC? Hell yeah, I want to be an internship at CDC. Like, what the hell? Of course I want to do something at CDC. Oh wait, but it's in Atlanta and you have to do, and it's a commitment of, 10 weeks and 40-hour weeks, work weeks. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not going to work, right? Other things, internships, opportunities, volunteer opportunities. Maybe some of you are volunteering within this organization here, PreMedCC. How many hours does it take for you this week? Does that fit in your schedule and fit toward your goals? Remember, you're thinking about those 3 to 5 amazing things that you talked about that you would want to accomplish. Does it fit that, or does it not? Okay. And then what is most important to you when you're auditing your schedule? Okay. Knowing your priorities. It's incredibly, incredibly important. The other thing is the next thing, and probably like very mundane, but incredibly essential. And this is something that I always do. Never really like thought about it, but bundling your tasks. So this helps you like take advantage of what's called economies of scale, right? You increase your productivity by setting your things up, right? How can you get all the minute, what's it called? Minute, like boring tasks, low physical energy tasks, low mental energy tasks, right? For me, I can't study, I can't do work, I can't do anything unless my house is clean, right? So sometimes, people will, they'll clean a little bit here and then they'll do some work, and then they'll clean a little bit here and then they'll do some work, but it's like interrupting your productivity. So for me, I put that like first 30 minutes or 45 minutes into cleaning. My whole place is clean. I'm like good to go. I can be as productive as I possibly can in these next, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours that I'm going to sit down and knock out some work. Okay. It's incredibly, incredibly important. Now, after you've audited your time, you're understanding your priorities, you're bundling your tasks, you already know that you've kind of made some times in your schedule, and you're honest with yourself. You're like, okay, well, like, hell, man, every day I'm wasting 3 to 4 hours, right? Like 3 to 4 hours. Like I shouldn't be watching like YouTube for an hour. Like maybe I can watch two videos, right? And do it for 15 minutes, right? Or how much time do I spend on Instagram? Oh, you can be honest with yourself, because like your phone gives you that embarrassing like update, how much screen time you had in the week. And it's like 8 hours a day. It's like, how do I spend 8 hours in a day looking at a phone? A lot of it's social media, because it'll tell you, well, social media is like number one, right? Now, if it's a business or whatever, something that you have a passion, it's a passion project. Obviously, you need to understand that, but we're being honest with ourselves and seeing how we have freed up time, right? There's this term, and this is one of the last points I want to make, which is called time boxing. Okay. Time boxing is what Elon Musk uses. It's what Steve Jobs used. It's what Jeff Bezos used. And ironically, it's what I use. I just didn't know that it actually had a term, or it had like some type of, connection or relation to actual productivity. For me, I had a buddy that would always tell me, and the same thing in school, I'm just going to dedicate all of Saturday to organic chemistry. And it's like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, I don't get it. So you're gonna spend like the whole day, like, what is it, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Like, I don't know, right? The problem with this, guys, is what we were talking about earlier, Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law states work tends to expand to fill the time allotted for it. Work time tends to expand to fill the time allotted for it. What do I mean by that? If I say like, I'm going to shoot this video, I'm going to do this course on Thursday afternoon and evening, right? From 12 p.m. to like 9 p.m. 12 p.m. rolls around. I'm like, I still have like till 9 p.m. Right? How many of you guys know this, right? You guys are like, oh, I want to study, but like, I'm going to study all day. So like, I can push it an hour, right? And then you start studying a little bit, and then you're like, I still have till like 9 p.m. I can go take a break. I can look at my social media. I can, make a meal real quick and interrupt my flow, right? Work is going to continue to expand to fill the time that's allotted for it, because you're subconsciously giving yourself this leeway, right? So what would happen with my buddy is like, he'd tell me, oh, I'm gonna this happen like, I swear to, almost like every weekend, I'm gonna dedicate all day Saturday to organic chemistry. And then the next week comes and he doesn't know anything. Like he failed, like he gets a C in his exam, D in his exam. I'm like, God, like what? I thought you said you were gonna study those. I really didn't end up studying that much, because like it's going to fill the whole time. You're not really putting yourself in a productivity mindset, in a mode, right? And he would always ask me, he's like, well, how do you do it? It's like, I don't ever dedicate a full day to a particular task ever. Like what I do is I say hour, like this hour, I'm going to do this. Hour 15, I'm going to do this. The next hour and a half, I'm going to do this. Like we were talking about this before, like before I got on the call or got on this workshop, Jubin and I were talking is like, hey, like, what are you gonna do today or whatever. I was like, oh, I did gratitude, I did meditation, I did the gym, I came back, I did some work, I came back and I made some breakfast, then I came back and I did some work, and now I'm here, I'm doing the workshop, and then after my workshop I'm gonna go do outreach, and then after outreach. How do I do that? Is because I time block my schedule, time box, right? Cal Newport, who's like a college professor, is like he wrote a book called How to Win at College. It's amazing. It's an amazing book. Super, super straightforward, super simple. You can get it if you need it. He calls it time chunking. It's a little different, but it's essentially the same. It's essentially the same thing, which is once you've audited your time, you tracked your tasks. At least you could, if you don't want to use the app, you can just say like, yeah, I usually take X amount of time to complete to finish showering, and I take X amount of time to work out, and I take X amount of time to make my breakfast, and X amount of time to do this work, and I want to dedicate X amount of time to do this. You've literally put it in your schedule for that amount of time, right? Because I can tell you, like, my mornings, guys, this is why I say, like, people don't really understand the capabilities that you guys have with your time. I'm the executive director of Sacramento Street Medicine, which takes a lot of time. I am the CEO of Brainbox Methods, which I'm working with students all the time. I work full time, 40 hours, in just like anybody else, 40 hours in the week. And I have 3 kids, 3 little ones that I take care of, right? So like I'm a father first, and I have a fiance. So it's like, how is it that you can make that time? It's through this right here, time boxing, chunking your time, making sure that you're making the most of your time. Because when you do that, when you audit your time and you start to time box, you start to time chunk, right? You start to realize like, oh my gosh, like for the next like 30 minutes, I've dedicated like this time to learning on YouTube specifically about time management. So I need to fit in a YouTube video that's around 20 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, so that I can, take notes if I need to, or, do whatever I need to in this time frame. Because in the next time chunk, I'm going to be, it's like daddy time. Like I need to get my girls ready and going to school. Right. So I don't have that luxury. Same thing with you guys. Like in 10 minutes, I have to, go in the car to drive to work. So I should fit in, meditation, or say 3 things of gratitude that are different from yesterday. Right. It's not hard. It's not hard, but you have to, very few people talk about these things, guys, but some of the highest performers, the most successful people, successful students, successful people in the community, right? Because you're not just students, guys. You guys are going to graduate. You guys are going to graduate from, you're going to move on from your community college. You're going to go on to an undergrad. You're going to graduate from undergrad. You're going to probably go into graduate school, graduate from a graduate school. And then people think they're done. You've made it to be a doctor, a PA, a nurse, a PT, or whatever else you guys had on there. And they're like, I made it. But success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, right? Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And that is like, you get into a job and you're like, oh man, like I really don't feel successful. I really don't feel like this is it for me. Okay. So then what do you do now? Like, what do you do now? You have to learn, you have to have systems in place to grow, to take yourself to the next level. That's why I always tell people are like, man, Tony, you're doing so much. Like I have meetings with the governor of Sacramento, and it's like, man, how are you able to do this? Like, man, I'm just getting started, man. Like I'm still learning. I'm still growing. Like 2022 is going to be like the most amazing year yet. And 2023 is going to be even better, but that's just because you make the most of your time. You have the systems in place to make, to like achieve those goals outside of a particular career, outside of a title, right? Because this is the problem with a lot of students is they attach themselves to doctor, PA, PT, nurse, and you can lose that in a heartbeat. And if you can't lose that, there are days where you don't feel worthy of being a nurse. There are days where you don't feel worthy of being a doctor, or you mess up or whatever. And if you're tied, if your self-worth is tied to that title, then so too will your self-worth drop, right? You have to manage, you have to understand, like, what is your skill? What are your unique abilities? What are your systems telling you, like, who you are as a person? That's what you should hang on to, right? Again, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. So if you're a doctor and you're not doing that well, or you feel burnt out, you can't do it anymore. Many people fall into a depression because they're like, oh, well, that was everything I had. That was me. Like, that's what I had to offer. But rather, if you put systems in place, you make time to always learn, to grow, to you have a system in place to make it so that you can achieve those things, regardless of what the next goal is, then you can always go back to your system. Now, that's not to say that I don't have bad days. I have bad days. I have hard days. I've even shared them with Jubin. But, like, you know what saves me every single time? What saves me is my systems. Because the next day I'm like, okay, that was such a hard day. That was such a hard weekend, as a parent. It was such a hard weekend. I'm like, okay, but you know what? I know it's Sunday, come Monday, like, I'm going to be back into my system and I'm going to figure it out, right? I'm going to swap my learning period from time management to parenting with a yada, 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 whatever, right? Just for a bit until I can figure it out. But I have a system in place to achieve that, right? Okay. So you can write out you can write out your schedule. You can chunk your schedule. I do it in my app because I have an Apple Watch and it always updates me on what I'm doing next, right? And it's just a beautiful thing. The practical takeaways. There's only 14 minutes left. I could do this all day, guys. But one of the most practical things that I do on a day-to-day basis, even with all the systems in place and all the things, is called a daily highlight. It's called a daily highlight. Now, I promise you, like, 99% of the people in the world, 99% of students don't do this. And it's so simple. It's literally one goal for the day. Write it down. Schedule it in your calendar. When do you have that free time? You should know when you have the free time, right? Because, like, when somebody tells me, like, hey, Tony, when are you going to get that thing done? Hey, yeah, like, hey, Wednesday, I'm free 2 to 2:30 and 2:45 to 3, because I'm generally doing XYZ from 2:30 to 2:45. And I'm in a meeting from 4 to 5 every Wednesday, and 5 to 6, I'm doing the homework with my daughter and showering my girls and whatever. And then it's dinner time, and then 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm good, man. 8 p.m. to 8:30, whatever. I know my schedule. Like, it's just a natural thing. So if you have this daily highlight, once you've already put your systems in place, you've audited your schedule, you know when certain things can fit where. This daily highlight should be pretty easy. All you got to figure out is, what is that daily highlight? Now, for me, it started as a one. Everybody says, like, oh, just pick one daily highlight. I'm like, my mind's always racing, so I can't just do one. For me, I do one personal, one for my company for Brainbox, and then one for Sacramento. So 3 highlights. And then once I've gotten those 3 highlights, then I add some more goals for that day. Okay. But the daily highlight is the most important thing that you need to get done in that day. Now, everybody's like, oh, well, if it's only one thing, then, like, how do you do? But if you achieve one thing every single day for 365 days, you would be amazed at what you can accomplish by the end of 2022. You'd be amazed. Now, there are different ways that you can keep to-do lists, whether it's physical or whether it's app based, right? There's an app, it's pretty dope. It's called Todoist. is pretty dope. You can download that. It's free. There's also physical to-do lists. I'm going to buy one of these things. What I do is I pretty much work every day. And most of the time I've worked my schedule. So I work 3 half days. I work 3 half days. And so I get my afternoons off and I'm productive in those days, but I'm generally working in the clinic in the morning for sure. And I use Post-it notes, and it's on my desk. So every time I sit down, I'm like, oh, yep, that's my daily highlight. Gotta make sure I do that. And if I have like 5 minutes, 10 minutes in between a patient, I knock it out. And it's like, oh, that's done. Next one, boom, next one, easy, before my afternoon has even started, right? So for you guys, that you can do the app-based, the Todoist, and then the physical. There's physical to-do list. There's these like cute, there's a way to do these like cute little like note card holders that will like hold up your note card nice and neat. And you obviously you write it physically on your note card, but it holds up the note card nice and neat. So it's actually facing you, what have you. I can't remember the actual name. I would give it to Jubin, but there's physical to-do lists, and it's like a little wooden thing that holds up the note cards. It's full of note cards. It's just a pretty little thing. I've never used it. I actually want to buy it because I generally use physical to-do lists. I've just found it to be better. The last thing is something that this is the last one, I promise. The last thing is I guess word of advice is and I've never done this, is making a bet with a friend. I have a lot of friends that make bets with friends. They're like, hey man, I really want to do this thing, right? I really want to, learn Spanish. For example, I have a guy, a student. I really want to learn Spanish, but what I did was I told my friend to say, hey, like, I really want to learn Spanish. And if I'm going to text you, or I'm going to send you what words I learn every single day. It has to be at least 20. And if it's not, at the end of the month, I'll pay you $20, or it's lunch on me, dinner on me. Is that a bet? Yeah, like for sure. Who's not going to take that damn bet? But the bet is that the deal is like, you have to text me every day to say, hey, did you do the Spanish? Hey, did you do the Spanish? Hey, did you do the Spanish? And this dude is fluent. He's a Caucasian man, amazing, one of our best mentees. He's an incredible man. He does his Spanish, 5:30 to 5:50 every morning. You see how he chunks his time? Because he has to start getting ready at 6 or whatever. And he's in school. And he works, right? But he gets his Spanish in because somebody's holding him accountable. The idea is accountability here. But you can do that. The last note I'll leave with you guys is this quote from James Clear at Atomic Habits. He says, every action is a vote for the type of person that you wish to become. How powerful is that? That's incredibly powerful. Every action is a vote for the type of person that you wish to become. Now, how many times do you tell your friends, or you tell somebody that you're close to, you're like, I really want to do this. And then you told them that, and then they see you like playing video games and stuff, and you like feel a little guilty, right? Because I don't play video games, by the way, but you feel guilty, or whatever you're doing isn't working toward that goal that you told that person, fill in the blank. You feel guilty because the reason being is because every action that you take is a vote for the type of person that you wish to become. In other words, somebody's looking at you and be like, oh, you really want to be a doctor, but you never study, or you want to be a doctor, but you say like, yeah, this is too hard. Yeah, it's hard for everybody, mostly, it's just the people that get through it, the resilience. Yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing way to kind of put things into perspective. So I hope you guys found this helpful. There are so many like tidbits in here. I will export this as a PDF. In fact, I will do that right now, and I'll send it to Jubin. Jubin is a good friend of mine, and I'm sure he'll send this over to you guys. Jubin, I'm going to send it right now to you, my friend. Yeah, I mean, these are things like, please if there's one thing I could ask of you guys, please don't let this just be something that you took notes on, you felt good about. It's like you heard one quote that was like really good and it was like cool or whatever. And like, I really want to live by that. No, like, just for the love of God, put a system in place to help you achieve the goals that you set out to. Don't just let them be goals, because I promise you, anybody that you come across, that you talk to, and they tell you like, what were your New Year's I hate that question. What were your New Year's resolutions? Right. And I'm like, oh, it was yada, yada, yada. But I have like systems in place. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. Right. Like, you should see my system. Like, look, this is the system I use. And they look at it like, oh my God, how do you like, I don't have that. And then you teach them, right? You help them, you help that person. Right. I can't vote on this little feedback thing, but it's incredibly important, guys. It's incredibly important that you get this skill down. I think aside from, everybody always used to ask me like, what is the one skill that you wish you had, or that you wish you had if you were, your younger self or whatever. I wish it was time management, but it's not. It's actually networking. Networking is like number one, right? It's actually how I met Jubin, is from a network to a network to a network. But next, like a close second would be time management and systems, because you can't achieve your goals without a system. And once you put a system in place and you start to understand, you're like, damn, how did I even get here without a system? Like, how did I even get here without like really understanding my time? It's like, now I'm going to be on a whole nother level, right? That's what I've been telling my teams for the past few months. I'm like, now that we've like found these systems, Notion's relatively new. Now that we've found these systems, like it's a whole nother ball game. Like, it's a whole nother ball game, right? We have a ton of systems in place. And I still work on them all, constantly, because if you have the foundation right, you can't go wrong, because you always fall to the level of your systems. You'll never rise to the level of your goals. You may rise to the level of your goals on some motivation, but motivation fades, man, when things get hard. I have a relatively soft stop. I know Juven said we have questions, so I will open it up, and I'll stay out there for a bit.
I read Atomic Habits and loved it. Do you do anything extra to help implement some of the strategies you learn about in these kind of books? Also, I really like your presentation talk.
Appreciate you, brother. Yes. So obviously we have our company, Brainbox Methods. We work with students. Most of the time, one-to-many, which means that, we have group mentorships, but many times one-on-one. We're moving the like the algorithm of our system, but for within our work and within our course, we have courses that help students get prepared for graduate school and to help level the playing field. Very few people have resources to help expand their resume, expand their, personal statement, improve their interview skills all in one section. They have to go to different workshops and do all these things. We put that all in one thing. It's like the most incredibly valuable thing I could have possibly thought of for students getting prepared to take the next step. And whether you're, taking that step or not, right now, because you're in community college or you're a junior or a senior, I can't tell you how many times I sit down with a student that's a post-bac or a senior that wants to apply in like 2 months. And I'm like, damn, dude, I wish you just had this content and I had you like a year ago, because you would have been able to apply all of these things to your application and you'd be a badass applicant. We have students this year that got in. We got 4 students that got in to the #1 school in the country for PA school, multiple medical schools all across the country, just from our work. Now there's different levels to it. There's the Graduate School Acceptance Academy that we have that has what I just talked about. And within that, probably the most valuable thing that you can do is that you get is weekly mentorship calls with myself and my brother, with talks like this every Thursday night. And that, Jubin, is how we kind of implement these things. We talk about how you we always pick a topic. It's a different topic every week, and students, they hear from us. They get the notes from us. That's in addition to the actual content that's actually on the platform itself. And it's incredibly invaluable. And I think my team, I should check, but I told them to make a discount code for you guys. And this is by no means, I didn't come here at all to sell, so please don't feel obligated, but it's just such an incredible asset for you guys. Oh yes, great. Maybe I can find the link. Hold on, give me 1 second. It's just something that I think is incredibly invaluable. So I'm going to put this code here for you guys. Give me 1 second if I can grab it. Oh, beautiful. Great. Okay, that is going to give you the program is worth like $200. This is like $100 off, I believe. It should be. If it's not, let me know, because our team's usually on top of that. But it's the most incredible asset that we've had for students. And again, don't feel obligated, but it's like a damn steal, man. It's not even fair. Next question. I can't hear you. Oh, sorry.
Somebody just mentioned that they use the Note app on their phone and create checklist. I personally use 3x5 note cards.
Yeah, there's those things that you can buy the like I said, you can buy these little stands that are nice and cute. You can stand up the note card, and you can, so you're not losing them.
No, I just do the whole 3x5 note cards with a little clip on them. And if I, get wet or lost or anything, you don't cry over it. Does anybody have any other questions? You could type in, because Anthony has things to do today. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? We'll keep the thing open for a few minutes so you could download. Any other book recommendations? That's a question.
Oh my goodness, that's a loaded question, man. I have so many. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty is incredibly valuable. Specific to productivity, High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard is probably one of the most influential books that I've ever read. I read it. I swear on my life, it's in my schedule that I read like 3 of those pages, the same pages, for like 5. I think it's 4 pages, but for 5 minutes right before I walk into work. We like literally 7:55 to 8 a.m. That's why I cut my meetings short in the morning. And it's about how you change your state in terms of transitions, right? We all have all these transitions of like, and that you're not even aware of, right? It's like you wake up and you have to start getting ready, transition. You're ready, and now you're walk into your car and you get in your car, transition. What are you doing? You get out of your car to get into school, transition. You walk to your classroom, walk through the door into your classroom, transition, whatever. And these like pages, if I could find those page numbers, I would get them for you. But just really kind of set yourself up in terms of a frame of mind that has changed everything, both for professional and personal.
We don't have any other questions, so we're gonna let you go. As promised, 3 minutes late. Gonna have to buy you a coffee or something now. Anyways, thanks everybody for coming. We're gonna leave the recording open for a few minutes.